Hi class, today we are on Saxon Book 4, Lesson 76, and we are going to be looking at division problems with 3-digit answers. So for our first example here, we have 794 divided by 3. So we are going to follow the same process that we follow when we had 2-digit answers. I've put it up on the board for us again. We want to divide, then multiply, then subtract, then drop, and then we go back and repeat. And we're going to repeat that as many times as we need to finish the problem. So in this situation, we start with looking at the hundreds place, my 7 here. Can we divide 7 by 3? How many times or how many groups of 3 can we make if we have a total of 7 hundreds? We can make 2 groups of 3. So then we multiply. 2 times 3 gives us 6. If we make 2 groups of 3, it means we've used 6 of our hundreds. Next, we subtract. 7 minus 6 is 1. And then we drop our next digit. So what we're looking at here is we looked at our 700s. We said we can make 2 groups of 3 out of those hundreds. But we're going to have 100 left over. So we take that 100 and we combine it with our tens. And so now we say we have a total of 19 tens. How many groups of 3 can we make? Well, if I have 19, I can make 6 groups of 3. How many tens is that going to use? So we multiply. 6 times 3 means we need to use 18 tens. We subtract. We'll have 1 10 left over. Then we drop our ones. So now we have a total of 14 of this original 794. How many groups of 3 can I make out of 14? I can make 4 groups of 3. 4 times 3 is 12. Subtract. 14 minus 12 is 2. I don't have anything left to drop, so now we know my problem's done. I just have to account for this 2 right here. I have 2 left over. 264 is my answer, but it didn't divide evenly. I have 2 left over, so we put that up there as our remainder. And 264 remainder 2 is our answer. Okay, the next problem we're going to look at involves money. It's almost exactly the same. So here we have $8.40. So you'll notice I've got 3 digits. It's just in this case there's a decimal we're going to have to deal with. And we're dividing that by 3. So the decimal is really easy to deal with in division. All we do is we say there's a decimal there. Awesome. I'm going to put a decimal right above it in my answer. So my decimal will go right there in the answer above wherever it was in the dividend here. And then from there, it's the same problem. We still look at the first place here. If I have $8 and I want to divide them into 3 groups, how many dollars will be in each group? That would be 2. Then we multiply. 2 times 3 gives us 6. We're going to subtract. 8 minus 6 is 2. And then we drop our next digit there. We've gone through all 4 steps. So now we start over at the beginning. We're dividing. How many times can 3 go into 24? 8 times. Multiply. 8 times 3 is 24. So when we subtract here, we've got nothing. And then we bring down our 0, which is more nothing. Now remember, we don't want to leave this blank, especially because here we're talking about money, and this is not how we write money. So 3 goes into 0, 0 times. I'm not going to have a remainder because once I multiply there, everything's just 0. It's going to zero out. I do want to give it a dollar sign, and so our answer here is $2.80.
That paper's turned in.
Oh, I'll grab those.
Alexandria's.
Thank you, Mr. Jesse.
One's Alexandria's too.
Okay. All right. Our next example. Ooh, here we have a word problem. So let's see what they have to say. At 4 p.m., there were about 500 cars waiting in lines at 7 highway toll booths. About the same number of cars were in each line. What is a reasonable estimate of the number of cars in each line? So we're estimating there were about 500 cars, and they were split between 7 toll booths. So what they want us to do is divide 500 by 7. But remember, when we estimate, we can change this number to make it really easy to do in our head. I look at that, and 7 doesn't go into 500 very easily. So I'm thinking, what are multiples of 7? And I'm really just going to ignore that 0 there, because if I just look at the 50, what's a multiple of 7 that's really, really close to 50? 49. So I'm going to change that. Instead of 500, we'll make it 490, because now 7 doesn't go into 4, but it goes into 49 7 times, and it goes in evenly. So in my head, I can do 7 times 7 is 49. I'm going to subtract, I'm going to get 0. I'm going to drop 0. So I don't necessarily need to write that. Now, if you need to write it to be able to keep track and do your math work carefully, then yes, by all means, please continue doing that work. But when it's a problem like this, where we change the number to estimate to make it easy to do in our head, I can say 70, and I can think about it the opposite way too, saying I know that 70 times 7 is going to give me 490. So I can use that to check my estimation, or even to try to solve this without writing all that work down. All right, so that's the end of the examples. I have some lesson practice problems that I would like for you to try. Let's get those up on the board behind me. So the first problem is 974 divided by 4. Then we're going to do $7.95 divided by 5. Then $1,512 divided by 6. And finally, $50 divided by 8. And there is a word problem as well on page 487 that I would like for you to look at. If you want to go ahead and try these on your own, pause the video right here. When you come back, we'll go over the answers together. Okay, so my first problem right here. Looking at the hundreds, does 4 go into 9? Yes, it does. How many times? 2. So we put a 2 up there, multiply. 2 times 4 is 8. Subtract, drop. Now we start over. Does 4 go into 17? Yes. How many times? 4. Multiply. 4 times 4. Subtract, drop. Does 4 go into 14? Yes. How many times? multiply, subtract. We don't have anything left to drop, so now 2 is our remainder. This one, I'm not going to leave written like that. I want to give it a house. Divide by 5 that way. And this one has a decimal, so I have to make sure to put that in my answer right away. You might want to put your $sign in your answer right away as well. How many times does 5 go into 7? Just once. 1 times 5 is 5. Subtract and drop. How many times does 5 go into 29? 5 times 5 is 25. Subtract, drop, repeat. How many times does 5 go into 45? 9 times 5 is 45. Subtract, no remainder there. Okay, I'm going to erase some of the work here so that we have space for this one. How many times does 6 go into 1? None. Put an X there. What about 6 into 15? That'll work. That we can do twice. 2 times 6 is 12. Subtract and drop. Then back to the beginning. How many times does 6 go into 31? 5 times. 5 times 6 is 30. Subtract. Drop. How many times does 6 go into 12? Twice. 2 times 6 is 12. Subtract. Nothing left to drop, and we don't have any remainder, so 252 is our answer. And our last one that's on the board here, it's money. It has a decimal. Let me fill in my decimal and $sign to start so I don't forget that at the end. Does 8 go into 5? Nope, I cannot make a group of 8 if I only have 5. Does 8 go into 50? Yes. How many times? 6. 6 times 8 is 48. Subtract. Drop one of those zeros. Does 8 go into 20? Yes. How many times? 2. 2 times 8 is 16. Subtract. Drop. Does 8 go into 40? Yes. 5 times. 5 times 8 is 40. Subtract. And we have no remainder. So the last problem that I wanted you to look at was the word problem on page 487. If you haven't done that yet, turn there and do it now before you continue with this video. Okay, I'm gonna read it to you. Altogether, 878 people attended 3 showings of a movie on Thursday. About the same number of people attended each showing. What is a reasonable estimate of the attendance at each showing? So we have 878 people. We're dividing by 3. However, this is an about problem, which means we can change this number to make it really easy for us to do in our head. That doesn't look really easy, but that looks really close to 900. And that's an easy problem. I know that 3 times 300 is going to give me 900. So about 300 people would be our answer. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for you to do your written practice, which begins on page 487 of your textbook. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you again soon.